right, here in a super secret location once again. This is Growlersations episode 24. I think we're at 24 now. I am here with my man Jeff Fryman. I'm Sam Wynne. Our special guests this afternoon are administrators of the Deep Ellum Community Watch Facebook group. I've got John Robert Moore, Raine Devries, and Tyler Prothro are all here as administrators of a Facebook group, and we're here to hang out, drink some beer, talk about our motivations, maybe get into how it started and where it's going, most importantly there at the end. Before we get distracted, I definitely want to mention that we have a Deep Ellum safety meeting, a Meet the Officer meet and greet as well at Brain Dead Brewing Tuesday night, which is tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. and going on through midnight. We're going to meet the officers that keep us safe at night. So I hope you guys put that in your calendar and come out and see us tomorrow night. But in the meantime, we're going to drink some beer and talk about Deep Ellum and Community Watch. So I was added as an administrator as well. I was the newest recruit to the team. But you guys are both founding members. Tyler, you were added at some point. Were you a founding member as well?
2 days before you. 2 days before you were.
Oh, okay. Wow. Wow. So you were only a rookie for 2 days there, and I came in and took that mantle. So as founders of Community Watch, what made you go down that path in the first place?
Like we were talking about it just a few minutes ago, it really kind of started whenever we were trying to get Jesus Martinez's job back, and through that the neighborhood really became, we gelled together and became like a unit, and we realized that together we could do a lot more than trying to do this independently as bars and restaurants. And so Jason Webb actually was the one who got with Raine and started talking about how do I do this, and through that the page was created, and it just kind of really became its own thing. In time it just really showed what it could do, because initially what we were doing was it was a lot of GMs and bar owners and restaurants. We had a group text message, and so we would have an issue with someone down there, we would try to snap a photo of them and send it to the group photo or the group text, and it just was really hard because there were like 7 different groups of text message groups, and it was just it wasn't together as it should, and the page really just kind of brought that, to become one whole like community effort, and it really has done a lot of good. So that's essentially where we started. And
sorry, we're trying to load the questions.
Yeah.
I apologize.
You get takes a second.
Failed. I knew that.
Super high tech environment.
I'm feeling it. But yeah, we went from just a few hundred people to what are we at, 4,000 plus now right now?
Yes.
It is over 4,000.
So
I saw that.
it is,
I saw that recently.
Less than 3.5
It's a handful. It can be a handful. It's a part-time job if they don't realize it. It is.
Yes.
I mean, it can be a tough game.
So how old is Community Watch as a group?
3.
It was founded February 13th of 2015, so 3.5 years.
Yeah.
3.5 years, and when it started, was it always intended to be like a thing that 4,000 people would join, or was it trying to be like, oh, we're going to get 30 people in here, and that's going to be the right 30
We had about
people?
300 there for the first week or so.
And it was very core. It was very much GMs, owners, bar staff, some patrons that we knew were always down there. It was very important that those people were there, because that was how we were able to keep up with it all. And then people wanted to get in. Patrons started, more and more people found out about it, and it just kind of became its own thing, and it blew up.
Long-term
Word of mouth.
residences.
Yeah. People that lived down here wanted to be a part of it, and that was very important.
So got our first question in there. You can, those of us that are watching, you can chime in. We're clued into the comments. Feel free to ask some stuff. Edwin here asked, who is allowed to join the page? What's our target market? Who is now that it's not 30 people anymore, and now that it's more than 4,000? What are we looking for from our
requirement-wise?
From our people?
Right. Well, luckily about a year and a half ago, Facebook introduced a tool that allows groups to ask 3 questions to vet new members. So we implemented that. We just asked, what is someone's connection to the neighborhood? Do they socialize down here, live down here, work down here? And we just kind of go from there. Not everyone answers the questions. I think on some cell phones it doesn't show up the questions. So on those situations, we take it on a case-by-case basis. Like if they have 87 of their closest friends who are all members of the group, they probably belong. So we go ahead and let them in. The people that are wanting to join Boston or Santa Barbara, we don't let them in.
It does, yeah.
Or Russian bots.
Yeah,
It's a
people located
relevant
in
group of
Dallas
people.
is kind of
It's
one of the main
important to be a
requirements.
resident of Dallas.
And one of our admins, Michael Owens, he invested several weeks last year just going through and vetting everybody that had joined the group inadvertently.
Oh, yes. Hours.
I don't even want to think about how much time he has invested.
I'm glad he did it, not me.
Right.
So something that has been a recent, or not necessarily a recent change, but a change that's been in progress, and I know that since I've been added to the administrative ranks, with something we've been working on, is kind of putting a finer point on that, finding out who the page is for, who we want in there, and part of that is even going backwards and finding some people that maybe used to be a part of the group and aren't part of the group anymore, trying to figure out how to bring them back to the flock, if you will. Whether or not they were asked to leave or they left on their own devices, it's something that we're looking into doing. So, with regards to the who is this group for, if you have formerly been a part of the group and you're interested in becoming reintroduced, feel free to reach out to one of us, and we'll do what we can to help you get back in. Banning people has been something that is important in any internet moderation group. You got to keep things calm and civil, and sometimes people get heated and talk to each other. But rule number one is always like, don't be personally attacking anyone else in the group. So if that ever happens, we got to put a stop to it. So if you ever feel like you've been shut out and you aren't supposed to be shut out, feel free to holler at me directly or any of us, and we'll work on getting you back in there.
But on that note, people also accuse us of censoring, so it's like a double-edged sword. You know, you try to moderate the group, and sometimes you do have to delete a inflammatory comment, but then you get accused of censoring.
And we're trying to reel some of that in as far as like now we're muting people for 24 hours to give them a chance
And that's a new tool by Facebook.
to calm down, because you know when you have a fight with anybody, you're heated for at least a day, and so really you need to take a day and think about it and then come back to the table, and we're giving you that day. We're taking you off the conversation if that ends up happening, for you to get a chance to kind of calm down or let everyone settle down, and then we'll come back at it again. So that way we're not getting too heated in a situation, because it can get very heated in this neighborhood. I mean, there's always very difficult topics to address.
No one here's afraid of an altercation of any kind.
No,
So
not this neighborhood.
on the internet or
What I've
in
noticed
person.
as an administrator on some of these comments that have been kind of inflammatory, volatile in nature, is that a lot of the points that they're trying to make are very valid points, and need to be brought to the attention of the group. But it's the delivery of those points or the tact used that kind of twist it into something more of a monster versus something constructive.
It becomes an attack.
Well, and
work
9
with.
times out of 10, in my limited experience as an administrator, but also just as being a member of the group for as long as I have, usually someone that's making the really good point that ends up getting deleted as a byproduct of the thread getting trashed is because 5 or 6 other people were being personally attacking or something.
Right.
And it might not always be about shutting down the whole thread, and it's more like there's no way for us to mute 15 people and silence the whole thing. The best way is to shut it down. So
I know one kind of tactic that I've used in other groups that are kind of sister groups of this one, and that I've used a few times in this group as well, is if I do have to delete a comment, I usually send that person a direct message and say, hey, I deleted your comment. What you said is good, it needs to be addressed, but just kind of refine the way you deliver it, and you're more than welcome to repost it. And obviously, if they return with another inflammatory post, at that point we're looking at, maybe muting them or something like that. But, it's not trying to silence anyone by any means, it's just trying to continue the conversation in a constructive manner that's going to help the community rather than kind of discredit other people and then just bring everything down.
And definitely something we've all been communicating on how to get better at is how to do that. Whether or not it's muting individual people, you can actually cut off the comments of threads. And the cool thing is these are all tools that have only been added recently, right?
So
a year ago, you used to just have to kick people out
Like the
or
mute
delete
function,
it.
like
either
in the
remove
past
the whole
couple
thread or
months.
remove the individual.
Yeah.
And that was really
Right.
the options we had. So it was very much a conversation. It's like, do we pull this cord, or do we wait a minute? Do we just delete the thread, or we delete the person? So it was difficult back in the day. But now
Right.
we actually, like you said, we have tools, and it gives people 24 hours to calm down and think about it. That's
And
a
then-
big deal.
And another thing I've noticed over the past 3+ years is that whenever we have extended weird weather, it's hot for a long time, it's cold for a long time, we have a lot of rain, like rain for 3+ days. People seem to get real testy, and that's when we seem to see most of the arguments on the group.
Oh yeah, people getting cabin fever, just
Yes.
yelling at
Moody.
each other.
A little
I've
moody,
never
yeah.
noticed that.
I already got a question.
All right,
I'm
what
also
you got?
not an admin. I'm just here drinking.
This is gonna be going then.
This is Brittany. She says, are these the only group administrators, or has there been a look into a more diverse board to reflect the culture, environment, patronage of Deep Ellum?
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so there's, as far as I know, 12,
13.
13 administrators right now, and by no means are we all the same type of people. I think we actually took a poll just a few days ago where we were kind of seeing where everybody's head was at. I mean, like, half of us are probably conservative, half of us are liberal.
None of us come from anywhere
Yeah,
the
I
same
mean,
type of background.
Some people are bar owners, you know, like Sam. Some people represent, media outlets or kind of they work for bars. Some are just residents, and then obviously some work, in local law enforcement agencies and help,
Past,
protect-
present, and future.
Yeah, past, present,
Absolutely.
and future law enforcement. That is correct.
Very,
yeah,
very
so,
true.
So, I mean, there's a very eclectic group as far as administrators go, and by no means do we agree at all on a lot of the things we address. I think there's a lot of disagreement when it comes to deleting threads, deleting people, banning people, muting people. There's a lot of disagreement almost on everything just between us, and it almost comes down to like a vote sometimes on
It
some
does,
stuff.
and that's what's good though. It's not one-sided in any way. We have our own internal battle before we take it to the page, and we try to do our best to keep the admins as different as possible, so we get to touch on each side of who all of us are in this neighborhood. So it's not one-sided. It's very much, you get from the officer side, like you said, past, present, future, and the photographers down here, the people that work down here. Like it's a collective group of us down, as admins.
But I have a
And
question for you,
also,
too.
real quick, just while on that real topic, and we can go right to what you're saying. Tomorrow is the Deep Ellum officers meeting,
Yes.
and one of the things that we look for as an administrative group is for people to step up and that want to be a part of this. And if you are somebody that aspires to be an administrator of this Facebook page, we'd love to hear any suggestions of people that might be
Very
helpful. And we'd love for you to come to these meetings and come and be active and get involved. And it starts by getting involved before you become an administrator of the Facebook group. I have organized a graffiti cleanup, which I think was one of the things that maybe singled me out as a potential administrator. I'm a business owner down here, Brain Dead and Bowls and Tacos, and I'm working on doing the things that I can do, running off people from parking lots and escorting people to their cars if they need it. And I think that was kind of how I got nudged in that direction. Tyler, similar with you, you're noted for handling things in the neighborhood, so it was an obvious choice there. And so come be a part of it. Come introduce yourself tomorrow night at the officers meeting. I understand Chief Hall and plenty of the officers that work in the area are going to be there. So come be a part of it. Shake those hands, shake our hands, introduce us, and be a part of it. If you want to
I think
recommend
a
someone, recommend
much
someone.
larger subsection of the administrators are going to be there as well.
Absolutely.
Almost the majority of us will be there.
And that's the thing. We all have, as we said, we're all different people. We all have very different work schedules and lives. So some of us just can't do mornings. Some of us absolutely can't do evenings. So this is probably the the most we can get at this time,
Right.
even a week or so in advance. So
Real quick side note, we can go back to questions here in a second. We just had Exhausted Nihilist, which is a
So we didn't talk
Pilsner.
about it.
Nice, crisp, easy drinking, light. The lagers, we did an expansion recently, I guess a little over a year ago now. And that let us get into the lager realm. As with most Growlersations, Jeff and I will do the lion's share of the drinking. So, I've already finished my Exhausted Nihilist, and I've moved on to Love Cult. The hazy pale ale is a thing that's been important lately, and the beer trends, and we are happily embracing them. This is Love Cult, which is more like a hazy pale ale rather than a hazy IPA. But it's another good one. I'm excited for you guys to try it. It's nice and fruity and juicy and awesome, so you'll look forward to it.
Okay,
Jeff?
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I have a question. Okay, so John, Robert, and I have been part of the group since it was formed. You two gentlemen are new. So we have made many comments on the group over the past 3 years that there is an entire admin thread behind the scenes
Yeah.
where we talk about information.
Oh yeah.
Once you two were added to that thread, what was your take on that?
Oh my God.
that's a loaded question.
You
I'd
know,
love to hear this, though.
my first reaction was, what the fuck have I gotten myself into? Was really like, day one, I was like, man, I am not going to mute this thread within 24 hours of being added to it. And sure enough, I did. Only for 12 hours, 8 hours. You got to check out every once in a while. You can't.
It can be
You got to
tough.
have your thing. That's what I like about the Facebook thing. It says silence for 8 hours or silence for 12 hours. And that's like a good amount of time.
I will
Just
say
decompress.
I've never been one of those battery pack people. I never had to carry around one of those little extra battery packs to charge my phone.
Yeah.
But now my phone almost constantly stays plugged into something, whether it's a wall socket or a
I
battery
have
pack.
4 of those battery packs.
Just because
Totally.
it drains my battery, just the notifications nonstop drains my battery.
That's why I was gonna ask something similar, because if you have to, every person that says something that you're like, hey, should we delete that or should we stop that or is this okay? Like everyone has to do that in the background?
No.
Okay.
Usually one of the 13 admins will spot something going on, or one of us will be tagged by a member. And you can also flag a comment.
Yeah.
The public can flag a comment, and it'll notify the admins. And it was only if there was an issue that we start to debate it. I mean, there have been times where we've been quiet for 48 hours. And then there are times like when the whole Broussard
There's yet to be
situation
24 hours
happened.
without an issue that I've noticed.
When the guy beat up the girl outside
get
of
to it.
the palm factory, and it was absolute pandemonium. It took 7 of us
Yeah.
for the better part of 8 hours, just doing everything we could to keep up with it.
Trying to do our best with that. It really
Yeah.
was, it's a slippery slope, and it's a delicate situation. You want to make sure that you don't do anything too early. We don't know anything yet, so it's
Right.
it's best not to even try to assume anything, and that's a big thing. A lot of times people will come out and just shout from the rooftops, "This happened," and we're like, "Well, let's
Right.
wait for certain things before we make a decision."
Let Dallas Police have a chance to
DPD
investigate.
has a job, and
let
they-
them
and
be
they-
the ones
and
to make the
they'll do it
determination
best,
if
yeah.
there is an issue. And
They're
then
there
we
for a
will
reason.
get
Let them
involved.
work.
Yeah, there's regular Facebook to make stupid comments.
Right.
And that's something we've actually brought up numerous times. Like, this is not your personal page. It's in our main
The
statement.
pin
is,
post at the top.
it is not your personal page. This is not your place to come and complain about someone's bar didn't like the way, or you were too drunk to go in, or things like that. Like, do that on your own page. If you do it
people
with
posting
us,
about bad zippers, that got shut down real fast.
Right.
yeah.
I like that.
Again, see, it's for somewhere
Or
else.
somebody having an issue with a DJ or a
I'm
band.
sure there's pages somewhere elsewhere for that, and I
Yeah.
choose not to be on that.
I mean,
because
if
I'm
you've
not
got an
trying
issue with a DJ or a band, you need to take it up with them one-on-one. Don't come and air the dirty laundry.
Right.
on
Just
the
because you
group.
know there's that many members, you're gonna think air it. So
It's,
Right.
people using fake IDs, people that are causing problems. One of the benefits that happened the other day was we had a tip jar get stolen off our bar, and Jeremy was tagging people because they thought they saw the guy from the pictures that was going around. And Jeremy was trying to tag in there of the location. I know I've personally been involved with stopping crime thanks to Deep Ellum Community Watch. I've seen some activity that I didn't like, and within 10 or 15 minutes. So as much good as gets done, there are times that screw ups happen, and times when we're completely overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm going to speak for you guys when I say that, but I can't even imagine some of the issues that you guys went through before I was added. Like we mentioned the bomb factory thing, where people are looking to you guys for answers, and at the end of the day, you're not the people that are really going to be answering that.
That was
You're just trying to help, and
that
you're
was
trying
an
to help
extreme
connect the dots and
situation.
bridge some gaps. But at the end of the day, what you decide as a Facebook group isn't necessarily going to change the world. However, the petitions that you put together often do,
Right.
and have gone to
And have
gotten
done really well.
stiffer,
We've had 3 of
stiffer
those
penalties.
now that have been amazingly successful.
Tell me about some of those.
Those have been situations, we've had 2 that have been sexual assaults. 2 of them were 2 criminal elements on one girl. She was brutally assaulted, beaten, and robbed. And the other one was the girl who was attacked by the dark train tracks a year ago, June. And then the third one, of course, is the Broussard situation, which is still a case that's pending. But the 2-on-1 situation, we actually petitioned the juvenile district attorneys and asked to please increase their charges to adults.
Yeah,
Because
run 'em out.
they stalked her for several blocks, they beat her, they used a gun, and that's an adult crime. They are now
Absolutely.
serving, I believe, 25 years each. One is down south, one is out in West Texas. And then the other one, he was sentenced week before last, and he got, was it 25 years or 30?
I thought he got at least 30.
So they sent him away for a good long time. But we've had things, we started off as this group that was kind of rebel rouser, an offshoot of trying to help Jesus Martinez get his job, to now
Never thought we would be
City
at this
Hall, Dallas Police, Dallas Fire Rescue, Code Compliance, the fire marshals, the district attorney's office. They all reach out to us. They tell us we're thankful for the group and that they look to us for information to help them do their jobs.
I mean, even to further that, we've had other community watch groups that have said that we watch what you guys do as admins because we're not so.
Politically correct?
Yeah, okay.
That's
yes.
what I keep
That,
hearing.
We're not so. That was actually I was gonna say PC, but like, I mean, that we're not. We're Deep Ellum. We're very different, and so we do it a little different than what like the downtown group is and the Oak Lawn group and stuff like that. And so
Cedars.
people in the Cedars exactly, and so they look at us and they go, kudos, like, way to not back down to the masses, like to the people that want to say that's not right. Well, it is though, and then we work as a group as all of us admins and end the page itself and show that we're doing, look at all the things we've done right,
Right.
So we're talking a fair amount of good things that have been done right. If there are any decisions that have been made that you could take back, have there been any that stick out in your head over the last couple of
I
years?
can speak on this because I was a member of the group for a good while before I became an admin, and I had seen stuff, and I think with the Broussard thing, I actually reached out to the admins regarding that, where it almost turned into a witch hunt. By 9 a.m., the guy had already lost his job. He was getting evicted from his house and stuff like that, and we hadn't even got the guy in custody yet. So that could have been very bad. Had he decided to do something drastic because of all the stuff that was happening,
Very true.
because of what was happening within the group. So luckily the admins were able to shut it down pretty quickly, and we were able to take him into custody and nobody was hurt further. But that was, I don't think it was necessarily a bad decision, but it was more of a, there should have maybe been decision made sooner to stop something rather than let it kind of escalate.
We've never seen a situation snowball like that.
Right.
One did.
That one really just kind of took it really caught fire, and it
And
wasn't much. I mean, it was just all of a sudden.
And I think
an
what
hour
people
later,
need to
it was-
understand is,
wow.
is as admins, even though this is kind of like our quote-unquote job, to kind of moderate this stuff, I don't think any one of us is trained in public relations at all. I mean, I don't have a degree in public relations.
I
So
know.
Fuck no.
yeah, so
There you go. That
so
would be my
everything
official response.
everything we're learning and how to react, we're learning through trial by fire. So we know things that
I've
work.
just been complained about for so many years on the internet that I think I'm
Yeah.
uniquely
right,
ready
and-
for an administrative
So,
role
I mean,
in
I would
Facebook.
ask, if we do as admins make mistakes or miss something or try and put out some sort of statement that doesn't seem kind of very well versed or, it seems kind of touchy in nature. I mean, just kind of remind yourself, hey, this isn't their real job. This isn't, something they're trained in doing. They're trying to do the best they can with what they
It's
got.
extremely volunteer based,
Right.
and none of us are doing this for any other reason other than we sincerely care about this neighborhood and the well-being of everyone down here. There's no political agenda, there's no private, personal move I'm trying or any of us are trying to make.
And they also have to realize that if we take sides on things, if we start taking sides on things, then it's no longer a group, because then it starts to, it starts to factionalize and people break off, and then it's no longer successful because we lose numbers, we lose people. So we have to do kind of what we
get away from the
is the
point
best.
of the group, which is to raise awareness of the crime and the some of the aggressive panhandlers, or the underage kids trying to drink, or the drunk guy that ran into a car. Like there was one recently, the PT Cruiser or HHR. It was one of the two, the same vehicle.
Sideswiping cars.
They sideswiped the vehicle, and whoever it was snapped a photo of the guy's plate, the car that got hit,
Brilliant
the guy's
photos.
face. I mean, he couldn't have had better photos of it. And I know DPD is going to be able to knock this out real quick, because this guy, it was just whoever it was snapped all these photos and posted it to the page, and it was like, boom, there it is.
I got to help a guy one time in this parking lot. His car got, the truck rolled up onto the front of his car.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he was like, you don't have a camera pointing at that, do you? I have the guy, and the guy gets out, looks at it, scratched his head, wrote a fake note, pretended, because people saw, he did the
Yeah.
whole thing, and we found him
He's
on
like,
Facebook.
I'm just kidding.
Fortunately, the guy was an attorney, so he was able to handle it for himself from there.
There you go.
Well, it's like, we had a situation a few days ago where somebody in a pickup truck hit a girl's car behind Stone Deck over here.
Okay.
And they were able to tag the officers and have the plate number and the description of the guy, description of the truck. And while the officers could not find that guy, he'd gone evidently eastbound on Gaston, the officers couldn't find him that night, but everything checked out and all the descriptions matched.
Yeah.
So they were able to efficiently do their job really fast.
Smells like mango juice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's super.
And that's what's
juicy,
really
as
cool
they
about the
call it.
group.
That's what
is
this style is
even if we
defined
don't
by.
fix it or salvage the situation, then we've documented it, and it's 4,000 people strong, and so it's going to be seen, and it's going to get out there, and the people that frequent the neighborhood are the ones we want in the group, and they're going to be able to go, oh, I've seen that before, I know that person, or blah, 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 X, Y, Z, and we're going to be able to move forward with that. Not us necessarily, DPD, but
Right.
we're helping facilitate that process, and that's really cool.
So that
And that's
brings-
something.
That brings up an interesting point on the what kind of information is getting disseminated. Something that I've had as a concern, as just a business owner down here, a concern about Community Watch is is this putting a megaphone and a magnifying glass on all of our little problems that might be better served,
Interesting
kind of
question.
swept under the rug in a way that it's kind of classically been. That's been a thing I've weighed, I definitely see the benefit on both sides, but I've had the concern of talking to my own employees and being like, hey, don't put that shit in Community Watch. I don't want everybody knowing about that. And so there's these funny little fine lines of, hey, is this something
Is
that...
it worthy of the page?
Well, I tell with my guys, it's like, look, is this something that's going to stop something in the future? Or is this a guy in a Lime bike screamed at somebody and then pedaled off, is that going to be,
and there
are we
is
solving any problems there,
There is a lot of that. There are a lot of guys or people that will post aggressive panhandler on a bicycle that rode by and was like, F you, whatever.
I always do it if I get a good picture of their face, then I'll post, hey, here's a guy that I had a whole
if that
thing
happens.
with.
I mean, it's deep. People have a vulgar mouth down here, and you're gonna get that. Even in passing, walking by people, it's just what happens sometimes in any district that's like this, I don't
get the urge
I
to,
don't know the answer to that necessarily.
I don't think this happens in Holland Park Village.
Well, I don't mean.
You don't think
okay,
what happens?
so
in
maybe
Holland
not.
Park? I went to Allen Park High School. I'll tell you all the different things that
Yeah,
happen.
but they
in
do
Allen
it straight
Park.
wild.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Outside the Chanel boutique.
You would think that hand jobs wouldn't have happened in that theater in Highland Park Village, but I could say differently.
Oh, too much information.
Not ready for that.
All right, we went from here to there.
It is Growlersations after all.
Wow, that must be some
I didn't
fun
say it was
tonight.
mine. I just mean the middle schoolers are hanging out at
You didn't
the little
specify
thing.
age, so that's
Yeah.
I guess important. I don't know. Actually, that's
Well, I'm just saying, there's bad things that happen everywhere.
absolutely. And so, and to to kind of get back to what you're saying, like, yeah, sometimes certain things that don't necessarily need to be posted, like I said, a guy riding by on a bike said some obscenities to someone. Oh, that person, needs to be whatever. Like, who cares? Somebody will do that in East. I live in East Dallas. I get it all the time. People are just mean, especially on the road. But whenever you've got like underage kids, like just for instance, Wit's End posted, Denny that works at the door over there. She posted there was 3 girls that were underage, fake IDs, and posted it. Now that's going to hit the neighborhood, and everyone's going to know that these girls that are probably 19, 20 are trying to get in these clubs or to the clubs down here, and that can save, an issue with TABC.
Right.
Also, you don't want kids drinking. I mean, there's a reason why we have 21.
Right.
I mean, if you want to do whatever you want at home, if you got a parent that's going to let you do it, but it's, Texas allows that. But
Elm Street is no place for a 19-year-old.
it's not. And absolutely, that's male or female. It doesn't matter. It's not
I
a
don't
safe
care
place down
what
here.
age you are.
You can
Or
get
what age
into a
we all
bad
started
situation
coming down
fast
here.
because you're not old enough to know where to be and what's right. You can easily end up in a dark alley with some bad people and get hurt. And that's a big thing for me with the girls that come down here sometimes.
Staring at your phone doesn't make you safer.
This walking down the
no
street
doubt.
to their car is the worst thing I've seen. Or when you get in your vehicle, I've had staff when I was the GM at Wit's End for 3.5 years, and I would have staff, and I would tell them all, when we leave, don't sit in your car. And I had one girl in particular, I'm not gonna say her name, she knows who she is. She'd sit in her car and sit on her phone, and it's 3:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and I'm like, I walk up, drive off. Like, I have to go home, but I don't leave until all my staff was home. Like,
You're a
I
good
knew they
man.
were home, and we would always text each other in our messenger, or at least we'd say, we're home, so we knew everybody was safe. But like, the point of this group is to make sure everybody's safe. And essentially, above all, we want everyone to come down to Deep Ellum and have a good time and get home safe. That's essentially what the whole point of the purpose of the group was. I mean, it's gotten even broader than that, and we're doing more than that now, but that's the core, I feel like, right? Would you agree?
I think so. And on the note of the girls, when we had the cheerleader convention in town a few weeks ago,
Yes.
there was those 2 girls that were down here. Parents took them to the big city, I guess. I don't know. I hate to use that proverbial term. But they're down here by themselves, wandering around, and they were getting some weird looks by some of the shadier characters. And so people started tagging one another. And I think that was a Sunday night. Who all was working? Because people were being tagged.
I remember it. I can't
And
remember.
it was like, the various locations. Everybody, all the security were tagging one another. Keep a lookout for them. And then the next day, I noticed that people that I'm connected to in other neighborhoods around Dallas, they were talking about how this entertainment district were looking out for these 2 little girls, and they had no idea. They had eyeballs from all over this neighborhood watching them, making sure they were safe.
In the good way.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they're very much watching out for these little girls, and that's one of the. This is why, like, I don't work down here right now, and I'm looking to get back down here, and work some more down here. Because I'm more of a patron now than I am
You got to get back here.
I know. I got a certain bar that I want to go look at, but they're not open yet. But no,
You got that sweet swan hat though.
Of course, I love Gabe. He's a good dude. He's been here since before half this even became a thing,
That's
this go
true.
around.
Gabe, I walked my tab on Saturday. I'm sorry. I'll be back. I'll swing by
I'm gonna tag him in
next
this
time
video.
you're open.
Hey, Gabe, Sam's going to bring you some
Definitely
Cape
not
Cod
today.
mix.
Oh yeah, the
Bring
Cape
us some
Cod mix.
quesadillas and a nice 20 for that
Yeah.
tip jar.
But yeah, I definitely want to get back down here because I've had people ask me, like, why am I still involved? I'm not even, I'm just technically, I guess you would say, a patron down here. But it's not that. I have the water balloon war that I
You
do for
paid
the
your
45
dues. You so paid your dues.
Foundation. I've worked at Reno's. I've been down here 10 years, and I give a shit. Like, I care about this neighborhood. I do care about the direction it goes, and I'm worried about the direction it's headed. And so, like, I'm not gonna leave the admin group. I'm not gonna leave the community watch group just because I took a small break from where I was. It doesn't mean I'm not coming back.
So there was something that stuck out to me one time when Brain Dead opened a little over 3 years ago, and one of my servers said this really specifically about a year after we opened. Someone was like, Deep Ellum, don't you think that's like the dangerous neighborhood? she was like, it might have that vibe, but as a woman down here, I feel safer here because I feel like the average person is going to stand up for me if I was in a weird situation. And I thought that was a really cool little compliment. It was like, and she went on to say, it was like, Deep Ellum is a place for people on the fringe and on the outside and that have felt picked on before in a lot of different ways. And we know that, and that's kind of a common bond that a lot of people have. I'll be honest, I've never really been picked on for anything, but I was this big when I was this big when I was 13 years old. you don't pick on a 200-pound 13-year-old. But that was something that was really 14. I got my first electric razor in my stocking a week after my 12th birthday.
I believe it.
Yeah. So I can't not grow a beard. But that people say, and now weekends things are different. The scene's not necessarily all like Deep Ellum people that I'm referring to right here. But that's the thing I love about the weekdays and the really core crowd of Deep Ellum is we're passionate.
Yeah.
As a general group, we care about people, and a woman would come back me up if I was in a situation because she knows that I would go back her up if I was in that situation.
I think so.
And nothing matters. We're not afraid of the altercation. You see a problem, you're going to step in and solve it.
And especially when we can do it in numbers, it will deter people from being like.
And Community
the
Watch
bad
is the
person they may
online
end up being.
extension of that.
Absolutely, it is.
Jeff, you got anything from the old interwebs for us over there?
I have two things, maybe
right.
more.
I'm okay with two.
Kevin, I'm sorry that you got kicked off. Come tomorrow. Talk to them.
Yeah, Kevin, come on Tuesday if you've been booted. I'd love to meet you. Me and Tyler are new. We're the good guys. We'll.
And we'll vouch for you.
And I'm just going to say this. Contrary to popular belief, I know I get the bad rap of kicking people off the group, but if you actually knew what goes on
point.
behind the scenes,
It's never her specific. I'll tell you right now. This is a group effort with that. So it may feel because she posts more than we do sometimes, but it is a group effort. It is a conversation before it's an action. Like bar none.
Jeffrey?
thank you.
Well, of course, yeah. I don't want you to feel like you're being attacked.
Oh, no.
Because it does. It's become. It's happened a few times.
People don't
She's
understand that
expressed
there's 14 admins.
And they need to know
they
that
lump
it's,
it all
even
on
though
her.
she posts quite a bit, and she likes to bring the lighthearted stuff up, like you posted the 5 things about a Texan or whatever,
Let's
which is hilarious.
all group around today.
Yeah, exactly. You
thread.
should be able to have, like, with all the seriousness that we are of the group, throw a lighthearted thing, a fun thing, a ha-ha, or whatever.
And that's why we started doing that, was because people
Because
started
it gets
complaining it was too heavy.
serious.
Too-
And then you
Thank
go to the
you.
page.
Thank you, I was trying.
That's my job. I keep it on the rails. You gotta try both beers.
I want to. Thank
I
you.
really do like this. This is tasty.
This is not from this. I just have a question. But what's the consistent thing that you see in those one that snowball in the comments? Because some of them I see more of like a positive than a negative from my
I think the
perspective.
ones that snowball,
Yeah.
it's more of like a targeted comment towards a specific person.
Yeah.
And whether they may tag that person or they may imply that person by replying to a comment that person said. But whenever it targets someone specifically, that's usually when the snowball kind of starts, and then people start to like separate into like the North and the South, and the,
You mean
the
like
Yankees
you
and the
mean
Dixies, and they're about to
in
go
the
to
comments,
war. You know?
not necessarily the post.
Right.
Like-
So
As far
I
as
mean, it can
posts-
It's
start.
always the comments that
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it
comments
can-
are where it
shut down.
gets
It's never the
right.
post
It's where
that
it
gets
goes
the thread
wild.
shut down.
Yeah,
Well,
it can
it
start
depends.
with the post, but it most often begins in comments rather than the post.
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
I'll tell you, like one time the group really scared me because some of the members are so freaking good at what they do. And it was when we had the gentleman who was down here who was flashing the girls.
Oh yeah, he was in the
Oh,
Mercedes.
The guy in
my
the Beamer,
goodness.
the doctor
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Beamer.
yeah.
With personalized plays.
I
And that
forgot.
took on a life of its
Exactly.
own. I mean, within like an hour and a half, we knew who he was, where he worked, what his GPA was at school. And we knew that he was in his loft at that moment smoking a joint. It was because we had words from his neighbors.
Yeah.
It had gotten that specific. And we're just like, DPD, here you go.
Yeah.
And they took it from there.
The guys are watching.
Yeah, so I mean, when there's like a criminal situation going on, the group feels very united. And I mean, for me personally, one of the coolest things that I see is when I will see a name that I do not recognize, and they'll make a comment like, "What are we going to do about our neighborhood?" So it's giving everyone the tools. It's giving them the ownership. It's like the old school crime watches in the neighborhoods. Because you can't do a once-a-month crime watch meeting anymore and get anything productive done. You know, people are using social media. They're using these tools to take it to the next step.
Like quick action, yeah. Like I have an issue, I go to this page, I make this comment, or I make this post, and it becomes a discussion.
Exactly.
And it almost instantaneously we get we get to discuss it. Like, I'm upset about this. Boom, it's a thing.
Right.
You know, rather than I'll wait 3 weeks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Jeff, you got another
you're
one?
good, dude.
No, you're good. This is what I do as the host.
I got you.
Anton,
At the end, I'm preventing
asks-
dead space before it even happens.
Tyler, how and when should someone post in Deep Ellum Community Watch versus Deep Ellum Officers Corner?
So, kind of the rule of thumb for posting on Facebook is obviously if it's a criminal action currently taking place, the only real answer is to call 911. So call 911. You know, from your cell phone. You know, call them on speakerphone while you're sitting there on the post or on Facebook.
There you go. That's actually
posting
smart.
stuff,
I didn't think about
talking
that.
to the 911 operator. Because then the officers out in the field can see that stuff either on the Community Watch or the officer's page, and they can see the stuff that you're providing, and then once they see the call come in, that gives us kind of the justification to our superiors, hey, we need to go over here and handle this issue. Now, let's say it's something like a crime that already occurred and has already been reported. At that point, you're free reign to post anything and everything you want, you know. So I think just yesterday, Bucky's was broken into, and they posted videos like a few minutes afterwards of the guy, you know. And that was to kind of just give us the initial push of this is kind of what happened. This is what the guy looks like. So if officers were in the area, yeah, we could pick him up before, you know, that report was taken.
Yeah.
But yesterday we were pretty strapped for officers, you know, as we are almost every day, and you know, it just by circumstance, you know, we didn't have people to go address that call right when the call came out. But now, since they posted that stuff, pretty much a good portion of our afternoon today was looking for that guy because we had those pictures of him that they had posted. And we know from previous pictures that he's still wearing the same clothing. And we know from the community he always has this lime green towel.
Right.
A lime green towel sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you don't
It's
have...
on his belt loop.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, we can find this guy pretty quick if he's out there. And that's because they posted this stuff.
It's very good.
So, whenever you have pictures, whenever you have information or anything like that related to a crime, definitely put it on the page. But you need to put it on the page after you've called 911 and made that report.
Two things that were kind of brought up by that. One is there is a Facebook group that is not Deep Ellum Community Watch that is called Deep Ellum Uptown Officers Corner, or maybe that's switched. Uptown
that's
Deep
right.
Ellum Officers.
No, that's
Deep
right.
Ellum Uptown Officers
It
Corner.
should pull up with just the Deep Ellum officers.
And what I would probably clarify as a Community Watch admin is the Officers Corner is specifically for communicating with the officers, while a Community Watch post is more about the hive mind of Deep Ellum, because you want the eyeballs of the managers, the door staff, and the patrons to know about this, or if you want to post it in Community Watch, the Officers Corner, that's like how you try to communicate things more directly.
There's a lot
with
of stuff.
officers.
There's a lot of stuff that's cross-posted, so to speak, between both
Right.
pages
Yes.
that are crime-related.
But the bottom line is call 911 first. And the thing that I've been listening to a lot of dispatch, and the thing that people don't understand is officer concentration is allocated by where 911 phone calls come from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
And if
why
there's a
everyone
problem, you
says
got to call it and report
911.
it. And even if you don't necessarily think an officer needs to show up there in 5 minutes, you need to call 911 if it's a dangerous situation and have them have a log on it, and then that way they can record it and there's a record and there's a reason to come back.
And I do want to
discuss it.
clarify something on that.
Please,
if
please do.
if you do call 911 to report a crime, okay, because the way because of the way staffing works right now and the priority system and the way that the calls are dispatched, some calls don't get the same response as other calls. For example, a shooting is going to get a much higher response or a much quicker response than a burglary of a business, just because of the nature of the call, because it's a difference between loss of property versus loss of life. So when you do call on your burglary of a business or your car or your minor crash or something like that, yes, you may be waiting a significant amount of time. Okay, and I understand people have lives and they have to go about their life. They can't sit here waiting for officers all ends in the night. Okay, there is nothing preventing you from going to any substation in the city. Okay, and you can Google all the substation addresses. And let's say your car was broken into. There's nothing stopping you from going to the substation to report your car being broken into. There's nothing. The only kind of crime that you have to sit there and be present for the officer and take the report is a crime. It's usually like a burglary of a business or house. In which case, if they don't. If you aren't there when they respond, they're going to say, the person wasn't there when we responded. And when you come back, call again and say, hey, I called already. Yesterday I had to go do a thing, but the officers, I guess, came out while I was gone or I was asleep or whatever. But I still need this reported. Report the crime. Don't get discouraged because you called at 8 o'clock and here it is 4 o'clock in the morning and the officers still aren't there. Don't get discouraged. Go to sleep and wake up, call the next day and say, hey, my car's broken into. I called last night. Officers probably showed up. I don't know if they did. I was asleep, but I haven't given my report. I need to give my report. That way, the stats can be correct for the crime that is actually happening, so we can get the staffing levels correct for that particular area.
That's an excellent clarification.
Well, and also, for anybody that's in the Deep Ellum area, we have Central Patrol, which is right over at Canton and Hall. And if you need to find it, look for the really
Over by
tall.
Bowls and Tacos?
Yes, indeed. Look for the really tall antenna. There's a really tall antenna right at Central Patrol. So just head for that tall antenna, and you'll be right there.
Not very far.
It's also a good location if you're
It's
doing
a
any kind
scooter
of
right away.
exchange for like a Craigslist sale or something like that.
It must be the answer to the thing I was going to Google what a substation was, but I'm just dumb.
Canton and Hall.
No, it's good. All right, sweet. I like it. Okay, you guys already touched on this, but I think might be prodding, and I kind of want to hear it. Can y'all explain this? They both asked the same kind of thing. Can y'all explain what a band hammer is? and will you guys? This is a different person. Jessica says, will you guys address excessive banning, which I think might be the same? If you're concerned with people's safety, banning should be a last resort.
I agree with that.
Go ahead. You want to start with that?
Banning should be a last resort, but keep in mind when the group started 3.5 years ago, the option to mute people was not a tool that Facebook had in its arsenal. The option to mute people anywhere from 2 hours to 24 hours is something that was only rolled out for the groups a few weeks, months ago.
It wasn't very long ago.
So the whole band hammer, it was literally a situation like when someone was like just totally going off the rails. Maybe they had like a crazy bad day.
Band hammer is also a term that's been used for 15 years in gaming forums and gaming
so it's not
and all of
specific
that.
to
So
some
just to clarify, it has nothing to do with
I think it actually
Deep Ellum
derives the term band hammer, and I'm pretty sure Sam is going to say the same thing. It derives from the gaming community, from where somebody was intentionally exploiting or cheating in a game, and the administrators for the game would ban that person and basically throw a hammer at them and kick them out of the game permanently because they were cheating.
The hammer.
Okay, see, I learned that.
That's where the term.
Because the term band hammer, I learned about it was through Jeremy.
Yeah, that's where the term was originally derived from.
Something that I think is important for us all to address as administrators, or I would like to suggest it, and I think we all agree, so hopefully you'll do it too, is that banning has happened in situations in the past where we wish it maybe not have because of the tools that were available at the time.
Yes,
and we're willing to reevaluate that.
we have already. We've already begun that process.
And anybody that feels wrongfully banned, please, in our way to
Reapply.
reiterate it, we'd love to
and
bring
we'll
you
go
back
forth
in
with that.
and get
Answer the
involved.
3 questions, and we'll discuss it. We'll go further with that. we didn't have an option with that before, and whenever someone would come on with very aggressive, vulgar language, it was like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. It's unfair for you to attack a person or the page in such a way because you're upset. And so instead of being able to, like we said, we use someone for 24 hours to calm down, our only option was to remove you. And then you would come at us aggressive in messages, and then we would delete you and ban you completely from our lives to go further.
Pete, you wanna come get in here?
Oh, all right.
We got a few minutes left, a little bit of beer left. We've got enough for.
Hey, David Haynes wants to know. I'd like to hear more about Sam's stocking getting stuffed.
My what?
Your stocking getting
Oh,
stuffed.
you've got beer. All right, you're good.
I would rather.
Hi everyone, my name is Pete Friedman. I'm the founder and editor of CentralTrack.com. And I would like it if we could do a hard reset where everyone just says their name, where they work, and where they live. Thank you. Let me start here.
Okay, John Moore. I used to be the GM over at Wits End. I recently just became not that person, so I'm more or less just a patron of the neighborhood looking to probably grab another bar gig down here, but I'm very much an active patron down here. Been down here 10 years. I live in East Dallas, but I'm down here 4 or 5 nights a week. This is my neighborhood, you know. I actually might be moving down here in the next 6 months, so this is my place. This is my home. Whichever direction we want to go.
So I'm Tyler Prothro. I work for the Dallas Police Department, and I work in this area. So I just kind of it was my sector and or my area of responsibility, I guess. And
Sector is sweet though.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool term. So I just kind of took it under my wing as something to do and kind of to reinvigorate my joy for the job, because when I came to Central, I was not exactly pleased at the time with where the department was going. But this has re-energized me and got me excited about being a cop.
Then we got our hooks in you.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. I was born in Baylor.
Me too.
All right, very nice.
Yeah.
My dad used to. Okay, there we go.
You're born in Deep Ellum.
I know. So I was dragged down here many times as a child because my dad used to buy parts at Catalina Cycles down on Main Street. And I've just always been down here. It's just the only part of town I've always felt at home in. And I live down here, and I am technically an independent contractor. I used to own a .com company that did the extreme fan clubs online for NFL franchises, and 16 employees, and that was interesting. I'll never have employees again.
Jeff's father-in-law made the NFL soundtrack like theme music.
No way.
Love it.
So, like,
Wait, the NFL film?
Grandpa, either way, yeah, NFL,
yeah, sorry.
Same
Very nice.
You live in Deep Ellum?
grandfather-in-law.
What?
You live in Deep Ellum?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that's one thing that I think has been often said about the admins, is that you guys, yes, you used to work here. I guess you kind of work here, but
I left.
I'm playing the role
No,
of the angry DECW. You guys neither, the word is, you guys don't work or live in Deep Ellum. How do you respond
The
to that?
word on the streets.
Yeah. People are saying.
Yeah,
So,
know.
I get that.
Somebody sent me a private message the other night, you know, the neighborhood hates me and da-da-da, and that I've never owned a company. I'm like, what the hell was I paying those 16 people for, and why was my payroll taxes so much every quarter? But that's true.
What company was it?
It was called a Mistral Design Group. Mistral? Design Group.
Okay. So,
So I recently just.
but I mean, you guys.
I
I'm not
took
the
a
first
small-
person to say that.
No,
right?
you're
You
not.
guys
You're
have
not.
heard
You're
this.
not. And it's a fair question, of course. And I mean, like Jerry Woodwire works down the street, and he works at the door, or he runs the door in his place that he works, and he's always down here.
And he's
you know?
also an instructor in
You know,
mixed
I was
martial
the
arts.
I helped open and run or open Wits End. I helped build it, and then I became the GM a few years later after that, and so I took over and did that for almost 4 years. And I was at Reno's prior to this neighborhood becoming what it is this time around.
Yeah.
So I've been down here almost 10 years. I have lifestyle. I've been down here, and just because I'm not down here right now, I just needed a break.
Do you guys think? I
just
mean,
took a moment. So
so we're all in agreement that kind of reputation is out there, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a meeting like tomorrow, and that's great. Is that being thrown by Deep Ellum Community Watch?
no, that is a city.
Why doesn't Deep Ellum Community Watch do more outreach itself? There are 14 administrators.
13.
13. It's plenty of people to plan
I think-
stuff.
I
I mean,
think-
because you guys have heard. I'm not.
Well,
these complaints
I
are
mean,
not
that's a
new.
fair question. I
Yeah.
think.
So I did the
It's
graffiti
hard to get-
cleanup thing. I
Yeah.
wasn't
Before
an
you were an
admin
admin.
at the
So I'm
time,
asking why not
but that
the
was
admin?
how I got my role. Is I feel like they recognized that was a need, and was like, hey, let's bring him into the fold. He's going to be one to help do these things that we wish we had time for.
Okay.
Raine, on the other hand, has been involved in city council meetings. I've even
She
been
is
involved
very-
in
Yeah, I've
going to
listened.
Subway.
Guys,
no,
people
no,
don't
no,
do
no,
city
no,
council.
no.
The city
Well,
council,
At the very
the
very
panhandling
No, no,
task
what I'm
force,
saying is
the
I'm-
homeless commission.
I'm not asking about your own
the
cred.
dangerous
I'm asking
dog
about
task
reaching out
force.
to the members of the group
You know
so
what?
that they can
It
meet
is
you, right?
so challenging just to get us to be able to meet. I mean, this is, I think, the
That's-
most
We
did
discussed
one
at the
time.
beginning of this. I mean, it's the first
Never
time you
really
and I
had a
have
beer with
met
them ever.
officially.
Yeah, we've never even met. I mean, this is the first
Yeah.
time we've met.
That's
in
really
person.
interesting, right?
First
Yeah,
time
they
I met
talk
Sam was
every
when we
day
did the graffiti
online.
I
thing.
mean, a lot of our conversations are very much in our group messenger that as we discuss situations that are active in the community watch. I mean, we've never really gone into discussing maybe doing a community watch meeting for just Deep Ellum. I think that it doesn't necessarily need to fall on our shoulders specifically. There's a lot of people down here that are owners, and there is a owners meeting that happens down here that could be very much brought up then. I've
Those
been to them.
meetings
They're
suck.
not. I know. 3 people show up, but I get invited though. I was a GM, so
I was,
I
I was
get.
the angry loud one at the
I was-
two meetings ago.
So,
That was awesome.
but
Well, okay,
there's I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't fall on our shoulders necessarily. We're not the heads of Deep Ellum. You know what I mean?
And
No,
to
you're
touch
the
on
Deep
that,
Ellum Community Watch.
maybe
Community Watch
Community
page,
Watch
absolutely.
acknowledged
A
they needed
Facebook
that
page,
shift,
so-
and that's part of why.
And I think that we could probably get with someone and maybe start working on addressing that. That's a great idea, but it doesn't need to. I don't think it should be just our responsibility for it.
Sure,
It's-
but don't you
it's
think
just
that part of the issue with Deep Ellum Community Watch is that people have such confusion about who you guys are and what your motives are?
So I
I
did
don't
the
know about-
graffiti cleanup in Community Watch.
I know, you've said that
And-
like 4 times. I've asked you.
But how
How
many
many
people showed
man
up?
hours have we
We've got
invested in this?
4,300.
What does it mean?
I
when
didn't
you
see
say motive?
anybody show up that were the people that complained within the group. Everybody that is the
No, and that's
loud
why you've been brought
complainers
in.
in the
Do you
group.
plan on doing
You know,
more
and it's-
things like that?
100%. I kept
Initially,
all
what
of
we
my
said
hair.
before.
But it's just hot as
We
shit right
discussed-
now, and that was hard work.
Nobody
I
wants to do
never
anything right now. It's
scrubbed
105
graffiti off the walls
degrees
before.
at 4 o'clock in the
Right.
evening.
Sure,
Or
but
after-
guys, there's more to community building than graffiti removal.
There is.
Right,
Tyler?
I'm
Oh yeah.
specifically
Yeah, there's all
just,
kinds
like,
of things you do.
responding
But
to
I
that.
think I don't think anybody really had the presence of mind to think of something like that until this safety meeting we're having tomorrow was kind of brought about. And it really wasn't even something that the community watch brought up. It was something that one of our lieutenants just said, "Hey, this might be a good idea to do." You know,
Is that happening in other neighborhoods too?
no, it
They
hasn't.
did-
Is
Honestly,
it a reaction of Deep Ellum Community Watch?
Well, no,
So-
hold on. Another neighborhood have chief on the beat.
well, yeah, they do have chief on the beat. We don't. I don't think I've ever heard of a chief on the beat.
I think the
in,
easy
Essentially,
awesome
not down
person
here
to
she
say
has
yes
it.
to that last
Not down here
question.
she has it.
but
She usually goes to like
yeah.
the chief on the beat's usually at the rec centers.
So-
it's time to the Dallas Park
So
Department. It's
the
once a
officer
quarter.
page is a separate page. It's very much
Completely, yeah.
entwined with the community watch, but it's a separate page.
It's a sister page. So it's-
Yeah,
Right.
and the point of the meet and greet for that is for the people of that page and of Deep Ellum and people that frequent Deep Ellum to come and meet and talk and get to know the officers that work this area.
So there will be officers there tomorrow.
Yes.
Will
yes.
each of you be there tomorrow?
I'll be there.
be
Officer
there.
Lohman, who's also a
I canceled
administrator, will be
Dungeons
there.
and Dragons. Well, actually, I didn't.
My
cancel
girlfriend's
it,
gonna be
but
mad at
my
me, but I'll be
Dungeons and
there,
Dragons
so.
game will also be here. I will not be
can go
Toke
back and
the
forth.
Barbarian. I
Well,
will not
other
be
admins either? Do you know? Have you
It
guys
should
reached
be.
out? There are 9 others.
I
right?
haven't. I haven't talked to
Michael
them.
said he was going to be there.
I know. Okay. So
Yeah, I'm pretty
if
sure I
you're
did a
watching,
head count. I
few
did
of
a
them
head
said they were
count of the
gonna be.
admins earlier, and I think more than half of the
Depending on their
community watch
schedule.
admins will be there, and I'm sure all of us are willing to address any issues regarding to community watch because
Absolutely.
this isn't just exclusively Officers Corner.
Yeah.
This is Deep Ellum in general, getting to know each other, because I know one thing that was brought up with the community watch is, yeah, there's pockets of people that know each other, but there's an even larger expanse of people that don't know each other and have never met.
100%.
And I think that we would be much more constructive as a group if we actually met and talked face to face about issues rather than over the internet.
When you put
Do you
a
understand my line of questioning?
I understand your line of
totally.
questioning. So, to answer your question, long
Life
story,
would be
you know,
better that way.
long
That's why
story short,
Growlersations was started.
tomorrow's
It's
going to
really
kind of
on
be that
Facebook.
first step towards that kind of event.
Yep.
And I would presume that if we get a pretty good turnout and a pretty good, you know, way it turns out tomorrow night, which I hope they do. I hope we sell Sam out of everything he owns in this bar. But
I got a free buffet lined up for after the kitchen closes at 10.
nice. So
and so that's the thing too. Like
I said first round
if you want to
Sunday,
get on the
everybody that wants to
page
come.
and you want to be a part of the neighborhood, you want to help and do things, then
Right.
show up to the meetings.
Yeah.
There's first Sundays at Herman Hall are a thing, and they discuss neighborhood events. They discuss things that are changing.
But
There's
isn't that
safety
specifically why
meetings.
pages like, I mean, so.
And these are
so-
things that have been going on before we even existed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that these things already are in place. That these people are just not looking for it. They're looking at the Deep Ellum Community Watch for us to just make it all up.
It's like, I
Do
got
you
a
guys-
Councilman Madrano.
How about this? Do you
crime
guys
watch
like
everything.
being administrators of Deep Ellum Community Watch?
When I'm tired of it, I'll roll off.
What?
When I'm tired of it, I'll roll off.
When you're tired, then you'll roll off? What does that mean?
When
Like, at, like,
She's done
like
with it,
in
she's
life or
quit.
like on a day? Like each day when you're tired? Or are you talking about like in
No,
general?
when I've had my fill of it, I will roll off.
So what about the rest of you?
For me, it's I like I said, I wasn't even
More
down
work
here.
than fun.
Okay.
It's a part-time job, and I still, at the end of the day, when we accomplish something great, we get a bigger sentence for a crime that really deserves a bigger sentence, or we help keep, you know, like we said, the girls, the cheerleader girls walking around, and we kept them from being, like, maybe they weren't gonna, maybe nothing would have happened, but we got together and we did something. Like, that's why I stay
13, 14-year-old
a part of
girls.
it.
And it
That's
makes me
why I
think about
stay, because
myself.
it's important to me that this neighborhood thrives. I love this area. It's like, for me, I can walk into any bar almost, and I'm not even all trying to sound cocky. I've been down here for a while, so I know a lot of people. But I love that I can go anywhere almost, and I can sit at the bar and find a friend, you know. And a lot of people can say that down here because this is a big cheers down here. Like, everybody knows everybody. It's getting a little more difficult with
I haven't had an
access
ID
people.
for 3 weeks.
I mean, I don't know if that. I mean, I understand. Look, I've been living and working in Deep Ellum for 10 years now. I understand that's like the idealized vision of Deep Ellum, that everyone knows everybody and says it. But that is absolutely not the truth, because we
I would
were
say
just saying
more
30
so
seconds ago
weekday.
that
He's
people
saying-
don't know each other.
What's wrong with that ideal? Like
Well, how do we get to that idealized version?
well,
Is it-
he's saying it. He lives outside of Deep Ellum. They all have ties to Deep Ellum, right? And they love what they're doing, so they do this shit job of
No, I
being
know.
I wouldn't say
admin.
shit job.
Well, you know what I mean.
It's a,
I would. I'll
it's a,
say shit, Joe.
No
it's
one
an
wants to-
extra job
you know?
that it's a volunteer thing. Like, we're here
They're trying to do
solely
something
because
good.
we care and we're trying to do better. And I mean, no one's perfect, and that's why we try to be so broad in our admins. And that's why we just recently started to open up the idea, after all the new add-ons on Facebook for meeting and conversations on conversations, rather than just banning or deleting someone. Now we're going, hey, let's just add some more admins. Let's broaden
The
our
next step
horizon
is
a little
adding
bit.
a tier of moderators that
Right.
aren't
We're,
even that.
and that's the thing. It's a whole new world right now with it, and so we're learning as we go. None of us are perfect.
I think
and
that's true of the
remember
audience
that,
too,
like,
right? The audience is all like, or not the audience.
Right.
The,
You get to finish your
the
point later.
participants in the group are also learning as they go.
Yeah.
Can I?
Well,
So
and-
that
and-
leads me to a
and-
question that
and-
you kind
and
of.
as
I know.
Facebook, rolls out more tools.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
gives us
but,
more abilities and more
So my
options.
question though is, you kind of touched on this a little bit with like, does Deep Ellum Community Watch existing put more eyeballs on the bad things? So I don't want to
That's a
harp on
point,
your job,
though.
but no, let me
that
ask.
is a point, though.
No, that's a great point, and I want to get to that. But a real easy question is Deep Ellum, like, how does Deep Ellum crime compare to other neighborhoods?
So
Because if
basically
you look
to-
at the page,
to
it
boil
looks
it
like
down, yeah.
frickin'.
To boil it down,
It's bad from the page.
Have you ever looked at the,
I'm wondering
the
if-
East Dallas?
I think
store
the easiest
page?
way.
I was gonna say, I live in East Dallas, and I'm used to. I hear dot 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 dot, and it's like
Oh, I
that's,
live-
that's
Cedars-
Tuesday
Cedars
night.
I used to live in Casa Linda, and
I think
we
the
heard happy
easiest
boy-
way.
the
I think
term
the
happy
easiest
boys,
way
but
to
no,
kind of.
how does the crime stats compare to other neighborhoods?
So per capita,
Yeah.
and I only know the stats for our specific watch that I work, which is
Okay.
third watch, so it's 3 p.m. to about midnight.
Okay,
Okay.
well that's like the prime neighbor.
Right, that's
almost
like
prime.
normally the prime crime time, but what I know just from stats from the last several weeks since we've implemented both the officer page and been more engaged with the Community Watch, our crime in Deep Ellum on that watch is effectively nothing. We have almost practically zero offenses, and when we do have offenses
In Deep Ellum?
They result in arrests.
So do you think that there's a incongruousness between how much crime there actually is here and how much crime is maybe discussed on the page?
I think that there is a
Incongruity was not incongruousness.
that's I was like I think he meant incongruity, but I think
Dare you to correct my grammar.
He usually writes, so
I think the
I
common
left it alone.
misconception
I'm
on
not
the
getting
page
this one.
and the thing that kind of blatantly points out to people is that they witness a crime, and while it may be a crime, okay, they are either misinformed or they don't quite know fully how the law is written in the state of Texas, and they attribute one crime to another more serious crime when in fact what actually happened was something that, although it was a crime, was something significantly less. So it looks bad on the page because people are talking about it and they're getting amped up and animated. But what actually really happened was something that, honestly, if we had the guy right in front of us right then and there and we saw him do it, he might have only gotten a ticket for it. So, I mean, just for example, two drunk dudes fighting in public. That's
A lot of times
that's a
that'll
disorderly
just get-
conduct ticket. In
That'll
the
be
city of Dallas.
a neighborhood
Well,
bar
see,
will
yes.
separate it and let them go.
But when
and
it's
they'll send
posted
one
on the
this way, one
page-
that way, and it's
When it's
over.
posted on the page, people are like, oh my gosh, these people are like fighting. It's like a giant gang
Yeah.
fight. There's shootings, and they
People
build
like
it
to
up to
level
what
No,
it
heads.
is.
and there's are there not dangerous leaps that are made? Like you just said, people are
Right,
saying
there,
it's a
there are
gang
dangerous
fight.
leads. So that goes back to the
a
kind of
hugely dangerous thing.
the quote unquote censorship
Yeah.
that has become really prevalent in the last few weeks. And I think we touched on this last night. As an admin, we talked about it extensively for several hours before we made a post about it. That while there is criminal things that are discussed or criminal offense discussed on the page, we have to be cognizant that we use the correct terminology, we use the correct facts, we use the correct stuff when presenting this information to the community, because we do want the community to be aware of all the stuff that's going on in the community, because that's how they protect themselves against further crime.
And I saw you posted that in a couple groups, right? That was
Right.
like
It
we're
was
like,
a-
Hey,
we're like how
we're
it
at
can be
wrap-up
used.
time, so
Right.
just know that there's 5 minutes left
Okay.
to finishing beers.
But how the
cheers
language,
to
and I
that.
think this is something that people don't, and maybe even people who've been banned from the page don't know. Cheers, Raine. Is that these posts can be used in a court of law?
Correct. So I don't know.
they can hurt
Legally speaking,
On
this
both
is
sides,
just,
but
this is just from
I don't
my,
think people realize it can be used.
this is just from.
He's
from
not
what
a lawyer
I
as
know.
well.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I
No,
just
no,
know.
but, no, but you posted that.
Right. I know.
Right.
I know what.
Just trying to make jokes,
I
man.
know from experience what can be presented in
jokes.
court of law. And the officer page is a technically Dallas Police sanctioned page.
Sure.
So everything that is on
that.
the Dallas
Yes.
Police page is subject to open record.
Yeah.
So if Sam
happened?
says, "Hey,
Yeah.
I want to know what everything you posted on June 5th of 2018," and he submits an open records request, they'll come to either me or Ryan or one of the other administrators and say, "Hey, we want everything that was posted on June
For
5th."
a fee.
And I've,
for a
I've
fee.
submitted open records requests.
And,
before.
and we
We'll see
have
how
to
that goes.
present that. We have to
Sure.
turn it over. Likewise, all that information, if we use a post, and we've used several posts to lead to arrests in the past, we have to let the DA know, hey, this stuff is how we found out this guy was doing
Yeah.
this thing.
And not just DPD, right? We know too that beyond Central Track, the media watches Deep Ellum Community Watch.
Right.
Correct.
Is that, how do you guys feel about that as admins of that?
I like it.
It's fine. It's not. There's nothing about that alarms us necessarily. Like it's not that we're hiding a private agenda or any kind of weirdness. Like
Okay, then
like,
why did you
will-
ban everyone from Central Track
We
when you
didn't do
found
that.
out we did a story?
We did not
You
do that.
absolutely did before it
No
came
one
out.
at this table did that.
Well, someone did.
Which
I
story?
do
When
know-
we did the Who's
I knew
Watching
he was getting to a
Community
point.
Watch.
Yeah.
I knew it too.
So-
That's a fair
that was,
question.
that was anyone at this table.
Which
Doesn't
story?
matter.
What are we talking about? Y'all do a lot of
I
stories.
missed
Who's
something.
watching Deep Ellum Community Watch,
The
probably.
who's watching?
Before it
Where
even
they
came out.
quoted me,
AP,
that
I'm not
the
banned.
guy who
I
read
know.
the
I'm
article
associated with Central
interviewed
Track.
me
Why
under
are
a
you banning?
different
So you guys
article.
are all about the spreading of information to promote safety, right? Safety through the spreading of information. And that question was asked by Brittany earlier.
That's one thing we
I
need.
think
There's an
sharing
admin.
of information.
Of it was, and I can't even.
There's
I
an
can't-
admin in particular, and we need to talk to that person.
Who's that admin?
I'm not gonna say right now.
I'm not even.
We
sure.
are one.
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
I remember the situation. It's just been a minute since that story. How long? Was it a year or so?
It's a year.
Yeah. So it's not.
And
fresh
that's
on my
where it was
memory.
particularly in
But
reference
I
to the
do remember that
organization
happening,
of
and
the,
it was
like,
kind of like
Guardians
an attack
patrol.
I felt on the page.
We were banned before the
without-
story came out.
The story may have been prevalent information
No,
prior.
it was not privileged.
I mean, I don't know. I may be wrong, but
wrong.
You asked to interview me.
well, it's
but
been a
it was
year.
under different pretense, and you took my.
So like I said, it's I am not
Well,
like fresh on
I
it.
do know.
But
I do
my
know.
issue
The
is
last few weeks we've done kind of like a
reopening of
reopening of the Deep Ellum
Right.
Community Watch. So feel free to join, and we'll
Hey,
add you
you
back.
know that's
you know.
actually not how it works though. If you've been banned and you search the group, it doesn't
You don't
come
find
up.
it.
So that
Right.
I understand
So-
what you guys are saying, and that sounds
Yeah.
great. But the fact is,
They went through.
kind of not a perfect solution.
As far as I understand,
So I
they
would
went
look
through
into
and
other
they
solutions.
They haven't. They, no, they haven't unbanned it.
Other
They
than
haven't
going
so
back
like,
in time.
So
a lot of people.
Well, I'm just saying,
People that come be involved.
but
show
people
up at a
can't
But that's
like
happened every 3.5
reapply. They're
years.
saying like,
well, then
if you've been banned, you can
hey, well,
reapply.
then how
I
about
said
this?
3 times.
Show up tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and
everyone
we'll search you and put you in.
My profile set to public.
Okay.
You can Google it.
Is that true of
It's
everyone?
right
Are you
there.
all
What?
public Facebook profile?
My profile is set
I
to
don't think
public.
mine
If
is
you need
necessarily, but
anything, message me.
Should it be as a member of Deep Ellum Community Watch?
It's
admin?
always been that way since years.
I mean, these are the weird questions we have to ask about,
Here we
like,
go.
you know, the weird
I'm not
responsibilities
against
of these
having my
groups.
page open. I just
You're
haven't
t- you're-
had the question
Are,
brought up.
are
We
you
need to do
putting
it.
yourself
We
out
need to
there
do
as
a
a
Daily
public
Show
figure
style, where
by
like, if
being
you want
an
to see the
admin
rest of
and
this
that?
interview,
right.
please chime in to
Yeah.
such and such.
Anton has to get
There are
up
more
for his family.
questions.
Why do you think you were banned?
Tomorrow.
All right, have a good
I
one.
have a dinner reservation.
Really?
at
Yeah, let's
8:15.
hear it.
I have got to go.
Because they were
You're
scared.
late. It's 8:15.
I know.
Before we published anything.
All right. Cheers.
I have no idea.
So
Hey, well, we
Growlersations
can
over.
discuss
It's
this
a good time.
manana.
let's talk more.
right
Come
now.
out tomorrow night.
Please come in.
Tuesday. Deep Ellum safety meeting.
one quick-
come be a part of it.
one
Hopefully
quick
there will be
addendum.
people from Central Track there. There will definitely be administrators of
Even
this
Pete's
Facebook
gonna
group
be
there.
there.
We're gonna hang out. We're gonna drink some beers.
Maybe.
We're gonna have a good time. Eat some food. Enjoy ourselves. Thank you, Pete, for stepping in.
We'll
Thank
actually-
you, Deep Ellum
we'll actually be
administrators,
here
for
at
being willing
8.
to everything.
We'll be here at 8.
8, perfect. 8 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll make it all happen. We do have to finish these beers. I know I went back and got more, but got to close it all out.
I
Have
have
to
to
be
make
empty
room for
glasses.
this beer, so
I'll help you.
I can do it myself.
That legally has to be finished before the camera turns on.
Yeah, we're not going to shut it off. Well, that's not from the technically it's not from the Growlers, so I don't know. It could go either
Come
way.
on, John, Robert.
Thank you, Central
yes.
Track. Thank you. Check us out on YouTube. Do all that. He might have pulled the truck plug already. Anyways, I love you guys.
That was
See you out there.
Aviento.
We're out.
I am about to piss my pants.